Hey, welcome to the GitLab Development Team's 13.8 retrospective, where we're going to be talking about some of the lessons and learnings and highs and lows from this last milestone that we just completed. In terms of the format today, we're going to spend about 5 minutes talking about previous retrospective improvement tasks, so things that we raised last time, want to check back in. Then we've got 2 discussion topics picked out that folks voted on. We're going to spend about 7 minutes on each of those, and then talk about improvements that we want to track for the next release. So diving into that, let's get into the previous retrospective improvement tasks. I think, Craig, you have the first one. I think maybe Craig is not on the call. So maybe we'll jump on to Darva if she's present. John Hope.
I'm here. Yeah, okay, well, this is actually from a couple of retrospectives ago. We were going to investigate ways to get engineers involved in the process of planning new features earlier in the product workflow, i.e. before the plan and breakdown stage. So we've taken a couple actions on this. The first one is that you might have heard us talk about this in retros a few times. We've merged this up to the overall product manager role page, which is, we call it product shadowing, which is 48 hours spent between an engineer shadowing a product manager. And we try to split that up so that they get a chance to experience everything a product manager does, customer calls as well as planning and things like that. So we've merged that up so it's available to other teams. And then also this milestone, we're trying out actually not building a feature, but instead doing a spike. The outcome of the spike would be an effective plan to deliver the feature. So that's one broad thing we're doing and one specific thing we're trying out this milestone.
That's really neat. Yeah, is that, has anybody written up their experiences from that? I'm curious, maybe in those links, if people wanted to learn more about what that's like to be in that shadow program.
Yeah, so part of the process of being on the program is that you retrospect on it afterwards so that we can improve it. So I think it's in the issues that I've in the issues list that I've linked there. You should be able to go in and see previous experiences. Charlie did the first one. It was her idea to instigate this program in the first place. And then Jan did one. And then the most recent one, I think, is Alex, and it might even be in process at the minute.
Awesome. Jerome, do you want to verbalize your comment?
I was just going to say the PM Shadow program is really cool. I think I'll have some team members that are interested in this. So thank you for putting this together.
Yeah, it was all Charlie Ablett, so I have to give her the credit.
Excellent. Should we jump into item 2, Christopher?
Yeah, so January retrospective was a little light in feedback in various areas. So we did a little bit of an advertisement where we asked every manager to pull from their retrospectives at least I said 1 comment in 2 different areas, I think is how I said, or 2 of the 4 areas from that perspective. And I'm happy to report that it looks like participation is definitely up. We're upwards of 6 pages of content. We didn't do a formal make sure everybody's doing it, but this looks great. Mec, you have a comment?
Yeah, it would be great to formalize this. I saw the announcements go in, but it would be great to touch on the quad, the leadership as well in those channels. So I'll take up an MR to add it to the handbook and have this codified in.
Cool, and you can add me as a reviewer, and then we can make sure we get the right locations in place and move forward. Cool.
Love the collaboration. Thanks.
And then Sam, I switched up the order since we had a couple of late ads, or not late ads, but participants show up late. So Craig, you're up next.
Yeah, thanks for pointing out I was late. I was in the wrong meeting. Yeah, so busy calendar. Last month, I put together a retro issue to get feedback from backend maintainers on what's working well, where some areas of improvement, and got a lot of really good conversation going, and using my favorite new tool, the discussion automation tool, which is linked there, so anybody can add to their issues that may have lots of threads and need to be automatically organized. It's great. It adds a summary to the bottom of the issue, so you can just click on the topics and jump to the threads. Of the most discussed topics, domain maintainer is getting a lot of traction, and there's definitely some follow-up work that needs to be done there. The deadline for feedback was just a few days ago, so I have a follow-up there to identify what's next. It may be working group worthy, to figure out how, if we should push towards domain maintainers and how we would do that. We do have documentation to encourage it, but I don't think we have like a uniform step forward on that one. And then the other talked about topic with lots of different small themes is what automation we can add specifically to danger and roulette. So great conversations going on there. I would encourage people to continue to give feedback, and there are some yet to be defined follow-up steps to take place.
Awesome. I was wondering, does it make sense to check in on that next retrospective then?
It wouldn't hurt. I mean, I can give a quick summary to say, here are the next steps, and feel free to join if we do spin up like a working group, or if there are areas that folks can contribute to automation.
Great.
Craig, since we're on the topic, something that we discussed on the code review group call, where we were looking to dog food approval rules with code owners, and we just shipped optional code owner sections. So it might make sense to consider code owners as well to apply the domain expertise to certain files automatically. So look into that.
Maybe it was you, someone did recommend that in the discussion for domain maintainership. And we have the roulette and we have the dashboard to show, who's doing what, and incorporating either the domain expertise that's part of Team YAML or the code owner's file, as you suggested, as part of that to direct folks to domain experts. So
okay.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Great. It was probably Michelle or Kai, but yeah, awesome. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. Perfect, Jareth. Jump right in.
All right, I'll take the next one. So I conducted a really short survey for the team to see what the engagement was like in these retrospectives. I think Christopher's idea is great, to ask the managers to make 2 to 4 comments. However, the ICs are also not really engaged. So if you can click on this issue right here, and we can share ideas about how to get ICs more engaged.
Thank you, Darva. All right. So now that was the follow-up items. Now we're going to jump into some discussion topics. There were 3 topics proposed, and we had people vote in a comment thread on which ones they want to discuss. The winners were number 2 and 3. So there's some questions there about focus and praise. Before we dive into that, though, I know Mech had a comment on the first topic, which wasn't the most popular one: production, reliability, and incidents. Mech, do you want to verbalize those, and then we'll dive into the other topics?
Sure. I know this wasn't voted, but I didn't want to wait for the next retrospective to use the airtime. But I think we need to keep our thoughts on improving reliability and the codependency across teams and even across stages. With the recent incident, and we do have a corrective action to track this. We don't have to track it as part of this retrospective. The code change involves a security release and teams into product sections. So I think we're scaling at the point where the problem starts to involve multiple parties and starts to become more complex. So I really urge folks to think about how we can be more productive with code visibility and testing in this area, and collaborate with us. And I'm using the airtime here to socialize the findings here and the corrective actions. Christopher, you want to vocalize? We can help.
Yeah. Stan and I talked about this particular incident yesterday, and basically to describe to people, like we have token rotations that go on, and because we have a source like Canary that's running and a production, that we effectively don't have a good solution right now to rotate the tokens, which feels like just like a general software problem. Now, Stan and I talked about a possible solution to that. I would encourage everybody to kind of think about, I wonder if we should just have every team kind of think about, okay, like if you have Canary running and production running, are we confident that, we have an architecture and software solutions to basically effectively solve for this problem? So we might want to take an after action around this, because it feels like we want to touch base with all teams on this particular front. So it's less about the specific incident and more about how we're developing the software to support this environment, would be my take. And I don't know if that's the point you're trying to make, Mac, but I feel like that's like critical.
Yes, that adds to the momentum of that. Thank you for solidifying that.
Great. I try to capture that in the notes, but yeah, we can follow up on that. All right, so diving into the next topic now, about focus. So several teams, as I was reading through all the notes and preparing the summary video, brought up topics around the idea of focus. So, ways to create more focus in their teams, ways to maybe facilitate, kind of knowing what to focus on. And so, I thought it was a good topic to open up to everybody if there's practices or things that you're trying that are working or not working. Anybody jump right in. I guess, Christopher, it looks like you've got the first comment there.
Yeah, just noted down below in the retro, I forget who put it in there, but somebody put in that Friends and Family Day was on the 15th this month. And because of that, it causes actually folks more stress because they were trying to get everything done by the 14th. One of the things that we had to do for the fulfillment team on EOA is effectively move Friends and Family Day because it was during a critical time when they were trying to meet a deadline. What I'll do is take also an action on this to basically kind of review that, or any other feedback people want to provide me, to see if I can basically get policy adjusted to make sure that it's maybe not between the 15th and the 18th, just from that perspective, as a consideration. So minimally, I'll do that for Friends and Family Day, but if other folks have recommendations, I'm definitely all ears.
Come up next. So the topic of focus came up on the database team, and we are actually experimenting with setting aside either a day or days during the week as focus topics. So we call them out during our team weekly meeting, which is Tuesday, and call out who's participating and how they can participate in that, so that we have a theme typically on Wednesdays for those focus topics, and make sure that there's no fires we're ignoring while doing it. And we just started this, so I don't have a lot to report back on the success of it, but it's something that we've been talking about in retros for a little while now. So we've actually enacted it.
I think I've got the next one. My comment here is, aside from trying to work more async and with fewer meetings, which I think we're already trying to do across all of our teams, what I found really helpful is really emphasizing the priority of different issues and the roadmap which our team's working on. By doing so, it's allowed our team members to be able to triage incoming issues, but then put them to the side so that they can address them later, and then just continue focusing on whatever's the top priority. So that's one extra helpful tip.
And I've seen that some teams that have individual OKRs helps those team members focus as well. Olivier?
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, I was typing and looking for a link. Maybe some of the teams are using that approach, but in the composition analysis, we have a dedicated engineer each milestone that handles every external request. So this makes sure that all the engineers that are working on direction items stay focused on their priorities, and any customer request, incoming bugs to triage, etc., are handled by a unique person that only has side tasks or stretch items assigned to them during that milestones. This also helps us having a bit more predictability in our commitments.
I was going to add, I've done something similar in the past where we've had like one individual on the team that rotates, that is kind of open to distractions, the interrupt-driven work, and then that allows other people to focus. So yeah, I've seen that be effective. That's great. I think we're about at time for this topic, and I don't see any other comments in there. Next topic that was voted on is about praise, and I just noticed that, maybe compared to former months, and this is great, there's a lot of praise that people added to the document. And we've also just done the employee engagement survey. Praise and recognition is clearly a topic that comes up in that context. So there's some questions in here. If people have thoughts on what's the most effective form of praise, if there's things in the past that have been meaningful, particularly meaningful to you, be great to share those and help us understand how to praise even more. Andre, you want to kick us off?
Yes, Sam, thanks. So this might be a minor detail, but it's something that I've done as out of a habit. As you know, karma is everything on the internet, and when we engage with customers online, whether they're making a complaint or a suggestion, I always find it, particularly on Twitter, to when somebody's praising a feature, to recognize the engineers and designers who worked on it. And I've seen sometimes conversations evolving through that, through requests, through some, hey, did you think about this? So I feel like it's a great way to recognize publicly our team members who worked on the features that have high visibility. So just something that I do.
Excellent. Anyone else have thoughts on praise or things that work well, don't work well?
Well, the thanks channel, I think it could be used a little bit more. It's there, it's not used often. So for the engineering managers out there, when you're having discussions in your one-on-ones, maybe reach out and ask the team members, has anyone done anything great, exhibited a value? And if they have, maybe you should, recognize them on the thanks channel, things like that. But just encouraging people to use it a little bit more.
I guess I can add one. I was having a conversation the other day with someone who was telling me about the program at another company that was similar to the discretionary bonus, but a little different in that the way it was set up was that everybody kind of had their own, like had $25 a month that then they could give to everybody else. And that, at least at this company, that was seen as something that had a big impact on kind of team cohesion, even at points where maybe there were other challenges in the company. So I thought that was interesting that it was very similar, but smaller amounts, maybe more frequent bonuses, and kind of a different take on that.
I found
the other. Oh, go ahead, Jerome.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say I found just having a little bit of like an attribution type of mindset when talking about things. So whenever you're talking about, hey, we built out this feature, and then inserting a big thank you to so-and-so for helping build this out. I found that goes a long way, and it's pretty easy to do.
I'd like to echo what Sam suggested. I don't know what are the implications from a financial perspective, but I definitely think that there are a lot of situations where something was done by a team member that could be rewarded, but the discretionary bonus is just too high as a bar for that specific action. Like currently, it needs to be something that goes very beyond the usual behavior. So having something with a lower value, but that can be used multiple times, might be a good solution. I really like that that suggestion.
So, trying to type that out and failing pretty bad at that. Yeah, great comment.
If I could jump in one thing on that. I just wanted to remind everyone that there is also, I will link it in here, but there's also the working group bonus if you want to, if a team does something really great, and in that case, everyone on the team gets $100.
Do teams have ways that they found effective to celebrate victories? One thing I try to do is, when you have a win, you accomplish something, it's nice to celebrate that as a team in some way, kind of mark that. And it's not a lot of times the discretionary bonus doesn't really do that. And we've done things like that, but does anyone have success stories there?
So I can give an example. For a while there, memory group would do end of milestone happy hour, which was entertaining. And sometimes we would play games. We found a few games that we play online. Among Us is one of the entertaining ones. And we found that our team wasn't big enough to get a full room of just us in Among Us. So we've recently expanded that to other teams within enablement. We have and like last Friday of every month, we have a time set aside to just kind of relax and hang out and have a good time and kind of celebrate the end of the milestone.
I can't get in the doc to type right now, but one thing I was thinking about doing, and this again is for the EMs, is looking at the team members who were exceeding in my group and just evaluate myself and see if I've given any discretion, if I've been involved with any discretionary bonuses for people who have been exceeding for an entire year, and kind of see if I have a discretionary bonus blind spot, and maybe kind of just self-evaluate and make some tweaks for the next year.
Oh, I think we're about at time for this topic. I don't see any other comments, but if anybody has a last thought, I'll pause for a second. Then I think we'll jump into the improvements for next release track. So we've got a couple items to go through that I think we plan to check in on next month in the retrospective. Andre, I think you've got the first one.
Yeah, Sam, thank you. So this is something that has been included as feedback on this retrospect as well. It's something that we, as an organization, are trying to figure out how we manage expectations and deal with the newly shipped feature of reviewers in merge requests. So there's an ongoing discussion on that issue that I linked there, but it feels like we need to have action on making some documentation updates to have a recommended process so that people know what we expect consistently. Because if people are using assignees and reviewers, or they're just reviewers, so there's something that we need to iron out to avoid some friction on the process.
Yeah, and this is more just a comment, but this is a great example of, and it's probably easier because reviewer is such a visible feature, but it's a great example of us dogfooding something. And then we can use the retro to basically get that feedback loop kind of working. Obviously, if we can get the feedback faster than that before the retrospective, that's great, but like this is still a good time for us to kind of cycle through. So if you try a new feature in the product and you see challenges with it, putting it in the retrospective would definitely be valuable, because not only does that get the communication out about what you're challenging to the team, but also to the group as a whole, which may cause other people to potentially try it out and see how it works from that perspective. Cool, I got the next one. So because of some of the comments above, I'm gonna go ahead and review no meeting Fridays and friends and family days to make sure we're reducing stress as opposed to causing additional stress, and see if we can move development days or development friends and family days to after the 18th, or if I can get some kind of general policy, if company-wide, ideally company-wide, so that we don't have to have our special case, but just from that perspective. Good news is that the next Friends and Family Day in February is after the 19th, I believe. So I forget the exact date.
Christopher, on that note, sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
I brought this up in the past, and there seem to be other no optimal periods in the month for other areas of the organization. So it might make sense to reach out across to other departments to see what are their times that we should avoid beyond engineering.
Do we think it would be better for if, like, so let's say Friends and Family Day is set, that we say as a development team we're actually going to take a different day, because that's another policy that we could do, right? Is the, hey, we just view this as too critical to the business, so therefore we will adjust accordingly from that perspective.
Could be something to discuss.
I'm seeing at least one nod and no vehement dissent yet. So okay, cool. I'll explore that and then report back the next update. Jerome, you're up.
Well, so last year we had a really strong push across all teams to implement product analytics and different metrics, and we were able to get product performance indicators across all of R&D. That said, it was definitely a scramble to get that done, and I want to first give a big thank you to all of the teams that helped implement that. What we're trying to do right now is starting to relook at our tooling and put a heavy emphasis on more standardization of naming conventions and implementation methods. So I've put an action item here and also set up a couple of OKRs where we're going to be improving our tooling. We're going to be updating the existing training guides, and then also providing some workshops and more support to the internal teams. Christopher.
Cool. And I have the last one, which is I'll be looking for a volunteer, but follow up on the review token incident. Do we have other situations in the product where we can't effectively upgrade certain things that puts us in a difficult state? So looking for a volunteer, but not asking for one on this call, but we'll make sure that that's addressed as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you everybody for an excellent milestone and excellent retrospective. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and